So, my microphones need charged, and I need to make a video, and the inside is not somewhere that I want to make a video in. It's not video, not very photogenic, as it were. So, um, yeah, I gotta make a video. Um, I have to start respecting myself enough to have an outlet for what is my calling. Being a successful member of society, or whatever that's considered, um, is not enough for me, because I don't think that society is running optimally or even close to optimally, and I don't think that we have the values. I don't need these on right now. We have the values in place that people claim to be under, which is, generally speaking, here in America, half the people are claiming to be progressive humanist, is the more elaborated, not just progressive, um, or traditional liberal. These are the titles used, and they have meaning, but the meaning is not necessarily lining up to what these people are claiming by a long shot. By a long shot. They're way off. Way off. And the other half, it's a two-sided thing, so we're supposed to find reprieve in one of the two halves. Unfortunately, the other half is claiming to be constitutional, conservative, fiscally conservative, and legally conservative, and Christian. Personally, to me, the most offensive, as someone who takes, and I'm not really offended. I can only be offended by the shadow I cast from myself, which basically means I fall short of the levels that I would like to attain through my spirituality, which is a Christian-centric belief system. Christian, Buddhist. I have to give props to the East. If you don't take mindlessness and emptiness, I'm more Zen in that field of things. But very intrigued to the nature of, I guess, Jesus, not even as himself per se, but the messianic concept, which is, a lot of people I don't think understand. Messianic concept is really spiritual utopia, spiritual centric utopia. Basically it's a utopia where everybody believes in God and reveres within that belief. And from my father's perspective, it's not. I've never been led to. I've never been led to alter, like, beyond what I'm seeing, beyond what I'm experiencing through prayer and meditation. And I've been given direct instruction through my faith and through my prayers. I've been given direct correction when I've been wrong, mostly when I ask questions, mostly when if I ask something and I probably should know on a deeper level, or it's an answer I don't particularly want to hear. These are the main times that I would say that I get a contentiousness from God, but it's always the highest resolution. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just my ego that would argue basically against God's will. And my father has shown me a world in which he's basically communing with people that are willing to commune back, I guess. And first and foremost, you don't have to be a literalist in any of the religions to still have faith. And I think that's a very dissatisfying view on things. I'm not a traditional, conventional Christian. I'm definitely not a Pauline Christian. I prayed on it, and so if I have to claim any book, I'm definitely a James, front to back, all 5 chapters, top to bottom, left and right, every which way possible. James, and also the teachings of the Essenes, which history is written by the winners, and they killed Jesus. So take that with a grain of salt. Um, but the Essenes were basically hippie communist warriors that had no government. They lived communally. They were true communists. There's never been communists. When they tell you all these boogity boo stories about communists, communism could theoretically be bad. I have no fucking idea. It could be worse than what we have. I'm not being led that spiritually. My faith says it's the exact opposite. My faith says that true communism is the key to utopia. And this would be the instructions that the closest figure we have to being the Messiah. I mean, you could argue Jesus is not a Messiah. You either have to take it as a second coming principle, or you have to take it as that he wasn't actually a Messiah because he didn't initiate a messianic era. The Messiah is a title for someone who brings us to that spiritual utopia. That's what the messianic era is all about. That's what the end of Revelations is talking about. And to some degree, I think that is the Bible in bookends. If you go from the front to the back of it, you'll actually see we start with the garden. So we're in this beautiful, kind of holy, unified state of being. And then we have our fall. We basically see the whole of creation as separate divides, and we make ourselves judges over creation instead of yielding to the creation. If we yield to creation, we yield to the creator, and we yield to the perfection of the design of everything. But instead, we let our ego supplant, which is just a PTSD persona run wild. And if we really study ourselves, we'll realize even our ego is fractal. It's not the unified thing that we think, although there is a unification underneath, but it's not you like that. It's God reflecting through you. It's you in a perfect state of yielding to God and God's will. That's where you actually become a unified person. Because then, good or bad or left or right or whatever the heck's going on, you're already centered. You're already at peace. You already have genuine faith, and you're not going to get blown to and fro. That's straight out of James. James is the best. If you're going to give the Bible a second chance, if you're going to say, okay, there's different levels of purity, and some of the books may be more outright propagandistic, which I think if you look at how divided we are, everybody thinks about the actual division, like the hate and the, blah, blah, blah. But I think even more relevant is people, I don't think we've ever had a time in history where people considered themselves so well educated and so well read up and so well studied and basically so right, so dug into their corner egoistically, because ultimately these are just your brother, sister, mother, father, neighbor, no matter if you disown them, that's who they are. That's the role that they were born to be in your life, and you were born to be in their life. And you can resist that if you want to, but ultimately the energy that you're resisting is still in your life in some shape or form. That's where the Freudian principle, I believe, of, that we go after the mother and father. It's like, well, yeah, kind of logically, if when you're young, that just all he's really pointing out is that you impress a lot upon the people you're around when you're young. That's what he's pointing out. And if your dominant impressions are there from your nuclear family, your mother and father all the time, then yeah, that follows that when you go off into the world and you seek whatever your preferences are, you're probably going to mirror on some level your impressions. But on a more esoteric spiritual level, the message therein is that, and in James it says, nothing bad comes from God. That all these things that we call bad is, first we have to understand the idea of who we are when we call things bad is that's the ego structure. That's the PTSD wounded inner child that is upset at the world and feels slighted in some manner. And the problem is that we don't actually believe that. That's where you get into more Eastern wisdom and meditation and silencing the chatter of the monkey mind. If we believed that we were truly victims, we would just be at peace in it. I believe that that's I think that's the lesson of the sage. I think that's the lesson of the monk. I think that's the thing that perplexed me when I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, is the people in the concentration camps that kept their spirit about them, kept they were able to stay optimistic, and um, they had a peace. They obviously couldn't have been victims. They were able to take subsistence off of the starvation rations, and they were able to kind of float above the intense emotional, spiritual negativity that they were surrounding on. And they were just nice people. They were dealing with the exact same conditions, horrific, some of the worst conditions in the last century any human being has ever been subjugated to, and they rose above it. And there's a peace in that. There's a peace in not resisting what is. And if you take what is at face value, then you're starting in a place of neutrality, no matter how bad that is. If you take what is at face value, then you start in a place of neutrality. And then if you elevate that one level to a level of faith where you're tapping into the source of everything, you know, we objectively see that some people cannot be happy because of the circumstances they're in, but that's not the real experience written throughout humanity. That's the general experience, especially nowadays, especially amongst us as a nation. But humanity, all the good stories of humanity are people overcoming the odds. They're all victories. They're all warrior stories. And there's a reason why those resonate with us. It's because of who we are inside, because of what we wish to accomplish for ourselves. In the end, most of us would like to be the just ruler. But when you realize that the only just ruler is the ruler that does everything for you, is willing to serve you on every level and not control you, the ruler that gets your loyalty through service. And you'll find that in a lot of different religious principles, but more importantly, this is the specific beef that Jesus had with the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, I guess, specifically. And he was calling them out when he was basically saying the law is fine, and keeping the law is fine, following the law that they speak is fine, but don't follow them. We've been following the wrong people. We have idols, you know. Call ourselves a Christian nation and a progressive humanist nation, but there's more signs of division in people's yards these days than ever before. When you declare one side in a blatant divide and conquer, color-coded scheme to evoke emotional response, the leaves are dying, and they fall one by one until they drop and hit the ground and to rot, disintegrate. And the worms and the ants eat. Moth, dust eat, and water doth rust. Probably paraphrasing again. But the tree survives. In fact, the tree needs to shed its leaves in order to be reborn. We must stop focusing on our position as leaves and start focusing on our position as a part of a greater tree called humanity. And when we see that tree, then we can be unified again. Because nobody looks at a tree to hate the separate parts as separate. That's a good first video after fast from making many, so I'm gonna stop there for today so I can move on with other good things. But I really want to keep making videos. I'm really gonna push to keep doing videos, and I don't even know that I'm gonna make them. I am making them for you. If you're watching this, I'm definitely making it for you. I'm making it for us. I'm making it for the tribe. I'm making it for the future's children's children's children. But simultaneously and equally important, I am making it for me. I feel a strong calling to express my calling, to express my views, to express my opinions. And I deny myself that simple act of love. So here I am. I'm defying myself, and I'm making this video for me as well. I'm making it for us equally. That being said, I'm going to wrap this up here. This is Josh with Communitas Christi signing off. One love, everybody.